Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the show. Again, this is episode 30 of the Powell Not Found Podcast, hosted by Mark Powell. You can find us on YouTube. The video version of the show is posted there every single week. We've been doing this for 31 weeks, so you should be used to it by now. And on Apple Podcast, go and rate and review the show. I think that's how it works. So the more people that talk about it, the more people that view it and stuff like that, the more people will watch it. Last weekend, we talked about Fly Me to the Moon, right? Which was, to me, it was a movie that was completely based on marketing the moon. A book that talked about the old advertisements of the Apollo 11 program. Now, in a way, and I mentioned this briefly, that the oxygen given to that movie was going to be soaked up by Deadpool versus Wolverine. And in a way, that's exactly kind of what happened, because Deadpool and Wolverine was released this weekend and completely swallowed the box office. I mean, I saw it opening weekend on Saturday. I think it was Saturday. And packed theater. So you want to see it with a whole bunch of people in the theater. You want to see it with a whole bunch of people reacting to the jokes. And that's exactly how it was. I mean, the theater was kind of buzzing. I think people really liked it. I think it was the exact kind of demographic that they were after. And movie, really good. No one's going to come out and see, no one's going to come look at this movie and come out of it feeling like they were gypped from a good comedy. I think this movie, when the first Deadpool came out, I think they were like, what is this movie going to be, right? Because we had seen what Deadpool was in the 20th Century Fox universe, and it was a scary looking, terrible depiction, also played by Ryan Reynolds. But the R rating kind of took the world by storm back then when it was first released, because it was like, what was the first R-rated Marvel movie, a Marvel associated movie back then going to be like? And it was different, and it really kind of put Deadpool alongside the Marvel, the Avengers, the Captain America's, the Iron Man. It kind of put it in its own little pool of like, yes, there's this whole superhero universe, but here's this really bizarrely relatable character who is so self-aware that makes all these other things, these other universes, Captain America, Iron Man, almost seem melodramatic in comparison, right? Because you have this one guy who can comment on everything. And when that came out, it was great. So when I didn't see Deadpool 2, Deadpool 2 kind of just came out in a busy time in my life. And then Deadpool 3 here, we've introduced now Hugh Jackman, and it's very much the same formula, right? You're not going to this movie for anything else. You're not going for this for sincerity and heart. You're going to this movie for laughter, for a gigantic meta universe where everything kind of is flowing into one. People are commenting on things. And that's what you get. You get an incredibly meta, an incredibly self-aware movie that's not only willing to kind of trash on its parent company, Marvel, about the things that they do. Yeah, for example, there is a very specific joke about the multiverse, about how it's just not exactly executing at the very end, which is very much, I think, everyone else's view, the audience's view at this point. But also you have like this movie also works as a vehicle to make you remember the old Marvel universe in a way, right? I said like the last week was a love letter to marketing the moon, right? The Fly Me to the Moon was that love letter to that book. This is kind of like a love letter to the old superhero universe, right? When I was growing up, when I was a kid, right, some of the summer blockbusters were not the superhero movies that we have today, right? They were if there was an attempt at a Marvel superhero movie, it was known to be terrible. There's a Hulk movie way before the Hulk with Ed Norton came out, right? That was considered terrible, right? It wasn't very good, and it was, superhero movies were not necessarily viewed as successful endeavors, right? And then you had 20th Century Fox kind of come out with Elektra, with Daredevil, with like Blade, as we saw, which may or may not be successful. You had them come out with the Fantastic Four, right? These types of trilogies, or these types of movies which then became trilogies and sequels upon themselves, gave a little bit more of a foundation to what was to come, so that when Marvel finally decided to kind of jump in the pool, they knew that there was some sort of level of success that 20th Century Fox had kind of dabbled in, but didn't take it to the next level, right? Arguably, the most successful movies that they had were the X-Men franchises, which kind of X-Men, X2, X3, Logan, Wolverine. They could take all these, the Days of Futures Past, the James McAvoy X-Men, the Patrick Stewart X-Men, all these things kind of created this foundation of like, oh, there can be some serious money to be had here, because these movies were, so-so in terms of plot, but I think they showed Marvel that they could be successful in this space. And that's why you had a direct line to Iron Man and to Ed Norton's Hulk and to Captain America. That's why these movies came to be, was because 20th Century Fox kind of laid this foundation of like, hey, this can work. This doesn't have to be a joke all the time, right? We don't have to constantly stay in the lane of Batman and Superman and DC, right? We don't have to stay in two characters. We can expand this out to everybody else. And so I think this movie in particular really hammers home Deadpool and Wolverine that, hey, remember all this stuff that happened before Marvel made a cluttered movie mess. Remember all these superheroes that we used to love in the late 90s to early 2000s, that these used to be the cabal. This used to be the cabal of superheroes that we idolized before Marvel took over and made everything sacred and made taking a risk in the universe a bad thing. Right? That's what I think this movie is really driving home, that there was a universe before this universe, and by combining them, it kind of not only makes it feel like it's full circle with some of these characters, especially Channing Tatum's character, who the name is escaping me right now. But it kind of like takes all these things and says, hey, these were viable characters. These were things that a lot of love and care were put into. And Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy inject these jokes that have been going on for ages, like Chris Evans playing two different characters within the Marvel universe, the Human Torch in 20th Century Fox and Captain America, and addresses it in this film, something that's been said for a long time. And something that's kind of ironic, because this week, Robert Downey Jr. was announced as playing Dr. Doom, coming back to the Marvel Universe, which is, I guess, explainable in their whole timeline, multiverse kind of thing. But it serves and operates in this movie as a fantastic joke and a fantastic reveal. And it just goes to show you that they are very, very well studied about what people feel and how people view some of these characters that came before the normal, if you will, or the current superhero timeline. Now, the one thing I will say too about those movies is that there was something about those movies that were nice, the 20th century kind of Marvel-esque X-Men stories, is that they were contained hard to kind of catch up on each one of them because they weren't feeding into this one grander timeline. I mean, right now, if I needed to catch up on the Avengers or the current Marvel timeline, I mean, that's like asking someone to take like 2 weeks out of their lives and then take notes on top of it. There's just too much, right? There's not that much of an ability. There's not that much of an ability to retain that much information, right, anymore. It's just been spread out for so long. But I like the idea that they would do 3 or 4 movies, boom, done, and then move on to a different thing. And whether they were successful or not, I guess they weren't. But, in terms of how well that the current timeline did, I still like them. And it was still nice to kind of see them resurrected again. So if you grew up with some of these superheroes in 20th Century Fox, you're going to love this movie. This movie is definitely playing at your nostalgia a lot. Also, if you're a big comic book fan, this is the first time that we see Hugh Jackman in the actual Wolverine costume, which has been very, very much rejected throughout the entire current Marvel universe. But Hugh Jackman does a good job, too, of also playing this alternate kind of Logan. I feel like this is a character that we've seen many, many different iterations of, regular Logan finding himself, old man Logan. We've seen now the worst Logan, like in this particular movie. I just think he does a really good job of constantly reinventing the same character, because that's got to be a really, really tough thing to handle as well. A lot of criticism from this movie being too meta. I think it's great. I think it's very, very difficult to define yourself as a superhero movie in the current landscape because there's so many of them. And this particular one has taken a path of being self-aware, very meta. There's a whole storyline of Deadpool wanting to be an Avenger, right? Like, he knows about the successes of the Avengers. Like, it's not like he's a part of this world but doesn't have any kind of awareness of this world. They've taken a very, very specific direction, and they've drilled hard into it, and of being self-aware and being kind of breaking the fourth wall a number of times. It's a very, very well executed movie, and I highly recommend anybody go see it. People levy the same charge at, and I do too, I levy the same charge at Marvel about being too formulaic. And this movie could run into that because they've done this now 3 times, but the way that it kind of wraps up, I think this might be the end of the franchise. I think they've played out their joke. They've poured in everything that they could possibly pour in, and I think if you went for a 4th time, you might be overdoing it at this point. I think they've really hit a good cadence of this character and his overall arc. And I think just leave it here. If they can leave it here, I think they've done a good job with resurrecting Deadpool, and especially considering from the credits, because they do shout it out in the credits. This isn't a spoiler or anything, but they do show you the old Deadpool. And so when you see how far they've come with this character from the original introduction of him, you just realize, like, oh, wow, this has really grown in the last, 15, 20 years. So go see this movie, Deadpool and Wolverine, directed by Sean Levy. It's a fun, incredibly entertaining, incredibly funny. You see it in the trailer, there's the wreckage of the 20th Century Fox logo, a 3D kind of logo just sitting in the sand of a desert. It's incredibly self-aware about certain things that have happened. There's a lot of millennial themes injected throughout it. The opening itself, I guess I don't want to spoil anything, but the opening is like a masterpiece in terms of 3D visual and execution and opening credit design. that you don't see very often. I mean, a lot of times we see movies now with no opening credits. A very stark contrast to the beginning of movies. The beginning history of movies where there could be like a 10-minute scroll, almost like a ending credit right at the beginning of the movie. But they do a really, really good job with the opening credits in the most ridiculous and ludicrous way. They establish how ridiculous this movie is going to be from the get-go. And so it's gory, but it's not like gross gory in a way. It's kind of like so over the top that it just feels like you're watching like an arcade game in the very, very beginning. So go see this movie, Deadpool and Wolverine. I had a wonderful time seeing it. I think this was a superhero movie that I was unsure of. I knew it was going to be probably really funny. Ryan Reynolds has had an amazing track record of entertaining things as of late, including the Welcome to Wrexham series on Hulu. That if you haven't watched that, go watch that. It's like watching Ted Lasso in real life, as him and Rob McElhenney go take over a soccer team in Wales. So incredibly a good run of things, and this just adds to it. So go see Deadpool and Wolverine. And when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about the ending of the trade deadline and the Yankees getting Jazz Chisholm Jr., Mark Leiter Jr., and Enyal De Los Santos from the Padres when we come back. So with that, we'll be right back.